Make it so. There you go. Wow. You anticipated it.
Make it so.
Okay. We are here. Okay, here we go live. Welcome to the Thursday, July 6th, the day before my birthday, special, Administrative Executive Committee meeting. A call to order. Chris, would you please pass the first public comment through?
There is so many in the queue that I can't even begin to answer that.
Okay, well, darn it. I guess we'll move on to number 3 then. Status of LADWP releases into the valley. I guess that's yours, Don.
I believe it is. So LADWP continues to release water from the aqueduct at the 2 of the 5 locations within the basin, those being the Sage Sand Trap and the Freeman Sluice Gate. After significant daily changes in the leading edge this week, it's extended north of Inyokern Road a couple days. Actually, this morning, it was reported it was south of Inyokern Road. I just got a text message about 10 or 15 minutes ago saying now it's back north of Inyokern Road. So it continues to move, and we continue to monitor the movement regularly. As of yesterday, we've got an estimated 9,124.5 acre feet. It's been released into the basin. We continue to get, other than this last weekend, we've been getting regular updates on a daily basis. And those updates are shared with Coastal Geothermal, with the Navy, and with Stetson on behalf of the Groundwater Authority. Fish and Wildlife, I think I put this in my update, but they finally acknowledged the stream alteration agreement that we submitted on May 19th. It took them to June 19th to acknowledge. When we got their response, they asked for much more detail of what we plan to do. We purposely kept it fairly general because we wanted to have a little bit of latitude on the project. But they came back, they wanted to know such details as the source of the material that we're going to be using, if it would be imported, how the temporary dams would be dismantled, and how the material would be disposed of, how the determination will be made when to remove the dams, and how the impacts to desert tortoise and Mojave ground squirrels will be avoided if the flows should go over the banks. They also advised in their response that we should allow 30 days for their staff to review that information and 60 days to respond. So based on that response, it's pretty unlikely the releases are going to go for another 60 days. At least that's what we've been told initially. So we're not going to respond. It's going to take staff time and resources, and we believe staff time and resources are better spent putting together a plan for longer term when these events happen again.
Yeah, totally concur. Did LA provide us any insights as to when they think the flows might cease? Or?
Not recently, no. Initially they said July or August. We're in July already, so I don't know how much longer. The flows when they are on the base don't appear to be big torrents. And the fact that it's going back and forth, I don't know that there's any imminent danger to the base facilities. Yesterday, when Jose or Ken were out there, they snapped a picture, and the base personnel were actually out there. There was a truck, and they were watching it. So I imagine if it becomes a problem, they can always request to have it cut back, and that would be the action taken rather than for us to declare an emergency and go put something in. Mm-hmm. We do have that option of doing a project, and then you have 2 weeks to submit your request for an emergency application. But as I've said before, if we don't do it according to Fish and Wildlife desires, then they're probably going to come back and say you did something wrong. And mm-hmm. So I'd rather not take that chance.
No,
No, you said in the requirements that if we were to put dams on any area to create a pool, one requirement is what happens if it goes outside that, begins to spread. How do they handle? I mean, it can already spread in certain areas already. Natural spreading.
It broke through those 2 dams that Kern County built back in 2017, and you deserve it spread way out laterally. So mm-hmm. It's probably already flooded some probably shouldn't say it.
But when you look at the flow, it's hard to call it flow, right? It's hard to imagine it accumulating and becoming a pond, much less, a big pond, but
Right.
unless they were to increase the flow. I talked with, I had a chance meeting up at the Freeman Gate, the facility the DWP has there. I dropped in on them last weekend and just out of curiosity, because it was just to get confirmation from them that indeed they haven't been varying the release out of Freeman because of the dramatic change that we've been seeing in the waterfront.
Right.
And they assured me, and I said, no, we haven't changed it since we opened it up. He says, initially in March or in April, you remember, it wasn't quite 37, but then they opened it up to 37 and they haven't changed it since then. He said, maybe, but he says, I doubt this is happening, but he says, but maybe the flow out of Hayway might be varying, and that would change, the hydraulic pressure at the point where it's released, so perhaps you'd see some variation then, but he says they're trying like crazy to get more water down from north of here. So,
When did you talk to him?
yeah.
Wow.
He said that they had just got a survey back from their team that the Sierra snowpack, this is last Sunday, the Sierra snowpack is equivalent to a normal Sierra snowpack in April. Yeah. So, and it's,
I've read
So-
that.
so 3
Yeah.
months
Yeah.
of normal melting is going to be, highly accelerated with a higher temperature. So they're anticipating a lot more water up north.
Did he happen to say anything about the possibility of opening up the other 3 points? Are there still concerns about damage, I assume?
There was still some, I've gone back and looked, of course, up at Boulder Draw. They've fixed the road. They just come in and bladed it through. It's not that big a deal to, but no, they hadn't actually committed to whether they're going to release anything. My guess would be if they would, though, it would probably be in the south end because there's less opportunity to damage things, but in El Paso. But in any event, yeah, so
It's
just,
interesting.
just to kind of look into the future, the next few weeks, if not many weeks, we're going to see much more water coming out of than we have.
Wow,
been.
so they still anticipate there's going to be more to handle.
Yeah,
And when it really begins to melt, which it isn't yet,
it'll happen fast.
it'll happen fast, yeah.
Certainly a significant amount of water. I mean, what I'm giving you is an estimate, obviously, but even if it's somewhere close, even 10% off, it's still a lot of water.
Water.
Yeah, if you get a chance to look at Owens Lake when you're north of here, if you can drive up to like kind of Horseshoe Meadow Road and look down on it, it's amazing.
They were worried about getting too much in Owens Lake because it might damage all the stuff they've done for growing the salt-resistant plants and everything else they've done to keep it down. So I know they were concerned about putting too much water on it, but they might not have a choice.
I don't think they've got any place to put it, so,
We put,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's interesting to see and we'll,
all right.
okay, well,
Right.
item number 4, draft agenda. I looked through it, the only thing
It's pretty simple.
didn't jump out at me was perhaps we were going to spend a few minutes talking about the good news that we got from the state this week, is to maybe discuss what we can and can't do with that money.
Oh.
I think that'd be a good topic. I don't know if that would be a closed topic or an open topic, but
I think we ought to be very broad about it now because it comes under, again, reliable water source is what it's for. And that can cover
Right.
anything from piping to a tank to a well, or something like that. So I don't know that we specifically want to try to identify what we want to do with it. The most I would recommend during the board meetings, if we want to write a letter from the board to the people that were responsible for letting this happen and thanking them. Yeah, including Stu and
You could do that under the closing comments, just
yeah, we couldn't close in comments.
Just
Wanted to
acknowledge
bring it
that-
up. Yeah,
people responsible.
yeah, I think it's at least to the point that we understand. My understanding is this would be fiscal 24 money, so we won't see it before the 1st of September, I assume. And it'd be nice to understand what kinds of conditions will be placed on that money, so that, we can get staff prepared to, if we're going to put it into a project or if we're going to defer one of our current capital projects.
might be something you want to put in a workshop.
It could be a workshop item.
They can be better, staff can be better prepared for recommendations, and I'd be very wide on the recommendations, give them all kinds of leeway. Yeah.
That works for me. I don't think there's any rush. It's not like the DCIP money that we're hoping will come our way, which basically is assuming a shovel-ready program, and we've got a tighter time schedule to use. But
Oh, I got a check in the mail the other day for $16 million. Could that be it? No, I'm just kidding.
So I did reach out to Senator Grove's staff, Mark Reeder specifically, because I had that question that, to my knowledge, the district had never received a line item in the governor's budget like this.
Yeah.
So I just asked him about the process, and he said Senator Grove is very happy to see this included in the budget. The funding is in AB 102 in section 19.562B, and it will be appropriated through the Department of Water Resources. Once the controller releases the funding, DWR staff will reach out to you to confirm details of the project. Usually they ask for a general project scope and schedule, but there's no requirement for matching funds. If it's similar to last year, the funding probably will not be released until October, November. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll make a note to follow up with DWR in a couple weeks, see if they have any additional information for you.
okay.
But I prefer that, I mean, I think a workshop's a good place, but I prefer for the staff. They're the ones to say where we really need it. And, you know, and just get a nod from the board about understanding, or unless we completely disagree. Because I think they're well positioned to tell us where we really need it at this particular point. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe a capital program.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Senator Grove, Senator Grove had initially tried for $7 million. I don't know if you're aware of that or not. She tried to get $7 million. I think it got reduced to 3.5, and then 500,000 of that was allocated to the museum.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the China Lake Weapons Museum. Yeah, they think they got 700, but
I was told $500,000, maybe. Either way, it's a lot of money for them to,
well, absolutely. They're
and a lot of money for us as well.
Yep. That was
Couldn't
nice.
come at a better time.
So the original estimate that was offered to her office, which was aligned with the pipeline, was 7 million. That's
Yeah.
the number we gave to Stu and Scott. So, okay.
All right.
So,
I don't see anything else on
all right.
the agenda. Looks like it'll be fairly simple. We never know what's going to come up on the groundwater authority with Chuck reports and,
Right.
and such.
Yep. Okay. Well,
I guess that's it.
any future agenda items? I think we just talked about perhaps putting that discussion on the workshop.
If you agree, I think I'd rather see it at a workshop than a full discussion here.
I agree.
And plus, it gives the staff much more time to prepare for thoughts for it. All right,
If there's no rush on it.
all right.
Okay, lacking any other? Do we have any public comments about future agenda items, Chris? Okay, well, thank you for checking. All right, and we'll call the meeting at 12 minutes after 3.